everyone, and welcome to week 6 of Intentional Relationship for Singles. This is appreciating the opposite sex, and I appreciate the opposite sex, don't you, Dan?
Guilty. Yes.
Yeah. But what is it about the opposite sex that we need to learn, Dan?
Well, a lot. First of all, God did create us on purpose. It wasn't an accident, like, oops, we got a man and a woman, what do I do? No, in the garden, he created Adam, and he said, I'm going to make a helpmate suitable for him. That's an equal, that's a match, perfect match. And those men and women, God's original creation was, it says, made in his image. So we learn about God by understanding not just a man, but men and women together. There's a masculine side, there's a feminine side, but God is a complete God. He is perfect in every way. And it is a beautiful thing when we can look at the differences between men and women and appreciate who God has created them to be, and then also appreciate him.
We often make assumptions that we think we know the opposite sex so well and how they think, and in some ways we do. I mean, like for your case, you've been married now a while. You've learned about Teresa, learned about how she thinks and processes it. And even with me, the same sex, my own mother living with me, I've learned a lot about her that I didn't think about. And as she's aged, and I see myself, I'm going to be there one day as well, and some of her insecurities and a little bit of anxiety, and it's helped me to understand her a little bit more and kind of where I'm headed. But I think we can always learn about the opposite sex and asking questions. Now, that's something new for me. Yeah. I've started asking men, what does this mean? Why do you guys say this? Why do you do this? Why are you always in a hurry to get somewhere? Why is it that your opinion of something is usually shorter, and then our opinion is very big, and we have lots of words, and it has helped me. So how is understanding the opposite sex help us in all of our relationships?
Well, I think that sometimes I've heard this said. People will say women are like this or men are like this. You'll hear opposite sex saying that about the opposite sex. So I think we need to understand is sometimes what frustrates us is maybe something we're not appreciating. For one thing, questions. You mentioned questions. I know that everything is on a spectrum, right? So it's not all men are like this, all women are like this. Right. There's a spectrum. But I would say in general, men are very functional in what they want to know. Women are more relational in what they want to know. So it's so funny because Teresa will ask me questions like I'll have been with somebody and she'll say, oh my gosh, how are they doing? And how's their mom? And how's their dog? And have they sold their house? Or there's all these questions and I'll say, I don't know. I mean, you were with them and you didn't ask?
Yeah.
No, I didn't think to ask.
Yep.
I was just talking to him about how his day was, and we were just talking about just the sports or whatever at lunch. I wasn't talking about the important things that Teresa wanted to know. So there's a big difference between men and women and how we work and why we do the things we do and why we are interested in different things even.
Well, and going back to appreciating. So I have a friend right now that's in a relationship, and she's gone through the study, which I'm very excited that she's going through. And I got to meet her boyfriend, and he said something that was really profound. He said, when you've been single a really long time, you're very independent. And we don't really want to be independent. We want to be interdependent.
Yes.
But we can easily fall back into, we're going to just take care of everything. Because as a female, I don't have a guy to do things around the house. So often I do it myself. And so she had become so independent that she really did not know how to rely on other people. And she didn't know how to value him and his skill set and his gifts and how God designed him. And, men are our protectors, and it's a good thing. And it's not saying that we can't do it, but why not let them protect us? Why not let them help us? Why not let them do things that God has designed them to do? So he said that in their relationship, they work on this all the time. And he said something very profound to me. He goes, Kris, please tell other women this. I'm like, okay, well, what is it? He said, if you keep acting like you don't need us, then we don't need you. He says, so you need to communicate that you do need us. It's not a weakness. It's actually a strength.
Yes.
And he said, so you need to learn more about who we are. And so I think we need to ask more questions, because if we don't know,
for sure,
because I've been single for so long, I don't know necessarily. So is it good to ask?
Oh, yeah. I think it's great to ask women their perspective on things and men their perspective on things, because a lot of times we make assumptions, and the opposite sex, they'll look at it from a completely different angle than we're seeing it. And so we can learn a lot about them and again, about God. It's interesting. Even the way God built us physically is different, men and women, obviously. I mean, there's some obvious things we see, but even things like our eyesight. Women's eyes are different than men's eyes.
Yeah.
Women see color more acutely, and they see more variety than men do. Men tend to be more tuned to movement.
Yeah.
I'll tell you how this can play out. Like if I'm at a restaurant and I'm across from Teresa and we're talking, you better not have a TV in front of me because I will be distracted, but I'll even be distracted by someone in my peripheral walking down, and I'll turn, and sometimes she'll say, I'm over here, pay attention to me. So it can play out in ways that we don't realize. Like women, you might get frustrated that a guy only knows 6 colors, but that's the way we are. Our eyes have 6 colors.
Yeah.
There's red, blue, green, yellow, orange. That's it. Yeah. And so that's just one of the many things. Hearing's another. Yeah. Strength is obviously different. Now, there's women that are stronger than some men, but men in general are bigger and stronger than women. So there's just so many differences about men and women that can play out in our relationships with them.
That can be of value. And, this happens a lot in ministry. They get asked, where are all the men? And why there are not as many men as there are women as we've aged up. And, and I say you have to pray them. Pray them in, pray them up, pray them out. Yeah. I say pray for our guys and affirm them in the things that they're doing that God has called them to do, and appreciate them for who God has made them to be. And I'm just so thankful. I had a wonderful stepdad that while he was quiet, not everybody, quiet is weak. He was actually a leader, and he was the spiritual leader of our home. And that's what I'm, wanting in my life. And I would rather stay single than not have that spiritual leader. But understand, even in a friendship, allowing men to be what God has called them to do, even in a friendship and in a ministry, so that you begin to see the pattern, or begin to see what it's going to be maybe in a dating relationship. And so I love learning about guys and trying to be a better friend, a better sister in the Lord as well. And I love about Jesus. Jesus elevated women.
Yep, he did.
And made them valuable, and taught them about themselves and the importance of them, that they weren't a weak vessel, that they were of no value. But instead, he said, you know what? I've made both of us, men and women, and there's a value to who we are and the way we are. And so this chapter, we talk about it and appreciating and what those differences are and how they can help us in all of our relationships. Right, Dan? That's
right. I just had it completely escaped, so pause. I had a great thought and it left my head. So let me think. What was it?
Battle of the Sexes.
Yes. Okay, I'm ready. One of the things that happened, we read the account of God creating men and women, but right after they screw up, they blow it, and they rebel against God, and then, of course, we see the curse that plays out. And that ends up creating this battle of the sexes that we experience today. Yep. And some of the problems that we experience between men and women really have a lot to do with that curse. Right. God wants to restore us. He wants to bring us back together. He wants us to understand each other and grow closer to each other and fulfill the original purpose that He created us for. Right. So we hope in this chapter you'll get a chance to understand the male perspective or the female perspective more from the people that are in your groups and at your tables. And I would just say in general, if you don't have opposite sex friends, I think it'd be a good time to maybe try and cultivate some of those friendships. I know that in Teresa's life, my wife, when she first became single, she was divorced as well. She had 2 kids she was raising as a single mom. And in the community, in the church community we were in, there were some men that really stepped up. They would do things that maybe a husband might normally do around the house, or they would play with the kids and have fun with the kids. And then she would be able to bounce questions off of them, like, what's your perspective on this when it comes to parenting? So there is great things we can learn from each other when we take the time to just talk and ask questions.
We're going to talk more about that too in the chapter on friendship and the importance of having same-sex and opposite-sex friends. And so with that, we're excited about this week and hoping that you will continue to do your self-reflection and really, get serious and value. Write down a list of the people in your life and the opposite sex, and just the things you value about them. Maybe send them a card, you know, and tell them, or send them a text and just tell them, say, I appreciate that you stepped up. I appreciate that you walked me to my car because I felt safer. You know, I appreciate that you listened to me, and that you, you know, when there was the football game on, you actually were willing to turn it off and listen to me. And so this is going to help us in all of our relationships. So we'll see you next week. Thanks, everyone.